So as an entrepreneur, one of the things that I've thought quite a bit about is the impact that I have on the planet. And this is a conversation that we can no longer afford to ignore in business. For so long, business has been about generating more revenue and supporting our clients. And we've ignored the planet as a part of that equation. But the truth is, climate change is real, that so much of what we do in business is having a negative impact on this planet that we all are a part of, that we all depend on. And there are some really practical, simple things that we can do as entrepreneurs to make an outsized impact on climate change and on our own individual footprint and contribution to solving this problem. So I've been doing a ton of research over the past few days to better understand what those levers are. And I discovered a really simple, crazy obvious thing that has such a massive impact, but almost no one is talking about. The conversation around climate change is mostly a conversation about, you hear lots of people say different things. It's like you should go vegan, or you should, fly less, or you should, recycle more, or you should stop buying so much stuff. And all those things are super important. But this one area, actually, in my research, I found is more responsible for most of us on our individual climate footprint than anything else we can do. And if you just change one thing, this would be it. So what is this? Well, it's what you're invested in. And you'll have to excuse me here because Boomer has decided he wants to go to the bathroom right now. So he's dragging me with him. So most of us don't think about what we're invested in. And if you have a portfolio of stocks or bonds invested in the markets, you're most likely investing in oil and gas companies that are promoting heavily extraction-based business models that are destroying our planet. And also a whole bunch of other stuff that you probably don't want to be invested in. Like if you're invested in just like a broad S&P 500, index fund or something like that. So the question is, have you looked at this? Because most people, myself included, just kind of follow like conventional investing advice. And it's like, I'll just take the extra profit that I generate from my business and I will, invest it in an S&P 500 fund and just not look at it for 30 years. But if you're doing that, you're investing in the largest companies in America and investing in a lot of companies you probably don't want to be invested in that are contributing to the decline of our planet. So what can you do about this? Well, I've done some research. First of all, let's talk about the impact of actually changing this. So let's say you have like $200,000 invested in like an S&P 500 fund, and you just switch that over to an ESG fund that has some filtering involved so that you're not invested in a bunch of companies that are contributing to the decline of our planet. Just that move alone can save, and you'll have to not quote me on these numbers because I was looking at this last night on ChatGPT, 30 tons of carbon emissions per year. Just that shift. That's essentially the entire footprint of like 4 people over the course of an entire year. Now, compared to everything else that you could do, every other change you could make, that simple shift of just literally selling some assets and buying another asset in your stock portfolio will make a bigger difference than anything else by a margin of like 20 to 30 times. You could go vegan. You could stop flying. You could get an electric vehicle. You could do all those things, and they would pale in comparison to that one simple shift. Why have I not done this for years? Because this is not the first time that I've been aware of this. Quite simply because I was afraid. Because I had this idea that if I sold these assets that I invested in these ESG funds, then I would be losing money. And there are funds out there that pretty much track the market average. And also, there's a lot of evidence to support that ESG friendly businesses actually do better over extended periods of time, which makes sense, right? Because if you're like harming and extracting from our planet, you ultimately have an unsustainable business. Like your business is not going to continue to survive. And so why are we investing all of our money in these businesses that are ultimately based off the back of business models that are not sustainable? Why would we not be investing in companies that are promoting renewable energy and the future of what we're stepping into? That ultimately that's going to be the most sustainable, profitable business of the future. So this is such a simple shift to make, and most people just don't think about it. They aren't aware of it. But if you make one move to dramatically decrease your impact on the decline of our planet, this would be the move. So there are ESG-friendly funds. You can look them up. There are index funds that track ESG-friendly markets that you can simply just invest in your stock portfolio. And just shifting from something like an S&P 500 fund to something like this, such an easy move that will have a massive impact on the future of our planet.